The sentinels of the tomb of the unknown soldier are famous for one thing above all: their absolute, unshakable adherence to protocol. They do not speak, they do not stop, they do not break formation for any reason. Not weather, not noise, not chaos. But on a warm autumn afternoon in Arlington, that sacred silence was shattered. A crowd had gathered, tourists chatting, shutters clicking, whispers floating through the air, until a woman at the front suddenly began to tremble. Her hands shook violently as she stared at the marble sarcophagus, tears streaking down her face. The sentinel marching across the black mat never looked up. His steps were perfect. His rifle gleamed. His cadence was unbroken. Until she whispered, just loud enough for the guard to hear, "My son, I never got to bring him home." The guard stopped mid-stride, and the entire crowd froze. Her name was Elaine Parker, a mother who had come not as a tourist, but as someone carrying grief that had never found a place to rest. Her son, Private Daniel Parker, had gone missing overseas 3 years earlier. No remains, no closure. Just a folded flag and a silence that hollowed her life. Elaine had tried to move on. She attended support groups, spoke to chaplains, visited bases, but nothing helped. It felt as though Daniel had been lost between worlds, neither remembered nor returned. So she came to Arlington, not expecting miracles, just hoping, somehow, that being near the tomb might let her breathe again. But when she reached the front rail, something inside her crumbled. She fell to her knees, weeping uncontrollably, the kind of cry that steals the breath from the air around it. The crowd slowly quieted. People exchanged glances, unsure what to do. And the sentinel, a man trained never to react, had already taken 3 steps past his designated point when his body paused of its own accord. A tomb guard breaking formation is something almost no one alive has ever witnessed. Their training is brutal. Their discipline is legendary. Their boundaries are absolute. Yet this soldier, Sentinel Staff Sergeant Thomas Hale, did the unthinkable. He turned. The metallic click of his heel echoed through the plaza like a gunshot. Cameras lowered. Tourists stopped mid-breath. Even the birds seemed to fall silent. Hale marched directly toward the grieving mother. Every step defied the centuries-old tradition of the tomb guard's unwavering path. When he reached her, he didn't speak at first. He just lowered himself to one knee. Not enough to break his posture, but enough to meet her eyes. Elaine looked up, stunned, tears blurring her vision. Hale finally whispered words so soft the crowd barely heard them. "Ma'am, you don't stand here alone." She inhaled sharply, her grief folding into her hands. "But I lost him," she said through trembling lips. "I don't even know where he is." Hale's voice didn't waver. "Then he rests here, with them, with honor, with brothers." Hale did something then that no sentinel is ever expected to do. He removed one pristine white glove. Slowly, respectfully, he reached out and placed his hand over hers, the hand clutching a worn, sun-faded photograph of Daniel in his uniform. The crowd watched in stunned, reverent stillness. A little boy lowered his American flag. An elderly veteran straightened up and saluted. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Hale lifted his head toward the tomb. He said softly, "Every unknown we guard is someone's son, someone's Daniel. And until the day he comes home, we carry him too." Elaine sobbed, not with the pain that broke her earlier, but with the release she hadn't felt in years. And in that instant, the crowd witnessed something extraordinary. Not a breach of duty, but the fulfillment of it. Hale rose, adjusted his rifle, slid his glove back on, and stepped into formation once more. But before he returned to the black mat, he performed one final gesture, one that no manual ever taught, yet every heart there would remember. He executed a slow, deliberate salute, not to the tomb, not to the watching crowd, but to her, to the mother whose grief had been carried alone for too long. Elaine stood shakily, clutching the photograph of Daniel to her chest. Her tears had changed, not erased, but transformed. The silence in the plaza remained unbroken long after Hale resumed his march. It wasn't the silence of protocol anymore. It was the silence of respect. A collective understanding that, in that moment, a tomb guard had not abandoned his duty, he had embodied it. Because honoring the fallen sometimes means honoring the living who still bleed from their loss. And as Elaine walked away from the tomb, the first hint of peace settling into her steps, she whispered, "Thank you for letting him be found."